So as promised, I put a longer video out. All we did here was choose a main base color, which I wanted that nice green. And I put a lighter green for the highlight. I'm just gonna put another little highlight here. All we're really doing is going from dark to light here, as you can see. And I want an even lighter color. Okay, I lied. Let's do the pupils first, then choose a lighter color. So we want the light color for the highlights over the pupil. Pretty much that. Now we're going to do some hair. And same as before, we want to choose a base color before we lay down any shadows or light. And make sure you get all the little cracks because that's going to be important later. I use clipping masks to do all my shading and all my light. So I definitely don't want to have any white showing if I can help it. And I'm going to get those edges here. Basically, anywhere where you leave a white blank area, your clipping mask is not going to put down your shadows and your light. And there's a very good chance you'll see me correcting that a bit. Now we're just going to get the last little poof. I really do like the sassy, poofy curls I made for this character design. And let's see how it looks. What do we want to do now? Let's go ahead and do some labeling so we don't get too confused. As you can see, I have everything labeled out. That way I can easily find them again. What I'm going to do is make a clipping mask for that line art on the hair. And basically what that does is just lets me play with some other colors than keeping the plain black line art. But I'm not going to mess with that just yet. I'm just preparing. I have a very ADHD way of coloring, guys. I didn't really make this video with teaching in mind, but I thought I would try to go through a little bit of my process. So again, for the skin, you've got to choose that base color to put down. Now that we've started to get the base colors for the dress all finished up, we get to the fun part. The gouache brushes. Gouache? Gouache? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And I'm just putting down a slightly darker shade. I'm not using very heavy pressure for the first coat because I'm going to want those darker colors a little bit closer to the lines and the folds of the clothes, like so. And I'm just using the gouache easy brush to kind of smooth that a little bit, but it doesn't really matter whether you can see any hard lines here in the coloring, because I'm going to be using a different brush to do the blending. Now this here is the best part of coloring with Procreate for me. I love when you get to adding the shadows, because the base color is really just base color. There's not very much interesting about it. I feel like when you start getting to the gouache paint brushes and putting different shades in, that's when the real magic happens. That's when a very flat, one-dimensional picture starts to transform into something that looks like you actually painted it. Just add a little bit more here. And I don't always go back to my color wheel, pro tip. I just start grabbing with the eyedropper at different shades at some point. It doesn't matter, because it's all gonna be a range of greens. And you can see there I just chose the brush mixing. That thing is magic. And that's why I don't ever need to really use a blender brush. The brush mixing brush and the gouache brushes for Procreate serves as a really good blending brush. And even if you did put too much dark or too much light somewhere, too much shadow, too much of a color you didn't really want in that spot, it's so easy just to go back to the color wheel with your mixing brush and just start painting over it, and it'll all just blend in. It'll all just begin to look like it was meant to be. Now notice that in the corners is where I really like to add my shadows. I just feel that that's where, unless you're doing a picture that has light hitting the character in a certain way, I feel like the little corners and stuff is just where they naturally live. And 98% of the time, I can't really go wrong with putting the darker colors on the outline. Unless, of course, again, you have a character like it's bathed in moonlight or something, or just has a light hitting them a certain way, where there's a reason for the edges to be highlighted, but we're not going to go that deep with this picture. And just going to add a little bit more darks in. I really do love these gouache brushes and the blending mixing brushes that come with them, because no matter how much of a hot mess one of my colorings start out as, it always eventually starts to make sense with these brushes. It will always eventually just start to blend in, and look at that. I really do love Procreate's brushes. And all I'm doing is using the same sort of pressure that I would be using if I was painting this with an actual paintbrush and paper. Of course, I don't want to say actually that it's exactly like that. Of course, it's not going to be exactly like that. And this is what I felt was like a mental block for me learning how to color. You really do have to think of it as learning another medium. But as far as pressure, as long as you've got your pressure settings for your pen in there, it is very intuitive. And the more you practice it, the more it will become like a second nature. Look at that, that's beautiful. I really can't say enough nice things about Procreate, about how easy it is to use and how affordable. I do wish it was on more platforms than just the Mac, but hey, someone who's struggled with Photoshop like me is just glad it exists. I really do like things being straightforward. There's not a whole lot to it. Just grab your stylus and go. And as you can see, that's my clipping mask with the little arrow. And I'm going to use that to make the lines on the dress a very dark green instead of a dark black. I feel like it just brings that together so much better. Very, very rarely do I stick to keeping black lines in my drawings. I'll almost always pick like a darker shade of whatever's on that color wheel. Speaking of which, let's get the shadows on the arms done. And you'll see later in this drawing how I'm going to do the same things to the line work on the arms. Get some shadows underneath that chin, around the nose. I do also like to use, even though I'm not using them in this video, a lot of the Groot brushes. That's, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Groot? But the brushes that Procreate comes with itself are very good. And I love that about this program. Let's see here. I'm probably going to change my mind several times about the color of the line art I want for the skin. I always do. Good for people that can get it in one, but a master color theorist I am not. So you'll probably see, and I should have, let that be a lesson right there, what you see me doing. I should have put the line art for those eyes on another layer so that I could have avoided that happening, but it's not a huge deal. Let's see, what does this look like? Is this gonna be too bright? See, I caught the eye again. I should have put that on a different layer. Let me go over that. Black, just gonna take some black and fix that. Yeah, do as I say. I mean, and not as I actually do when it comes to line art. If you know you're going to make a line that's a separate color that you just don't want interfering with the other parts of your work, like naturally I have the line art for the dress on its own layer, then make sure to separate those things in advance. It's not the worst thing you can do. It's just a little bit of a headache. And separating things makes it easier to color down the line. Let's see how this is going to work out. I don't know if by the end I'll be feeling this lighter color. I should have put more shadows down on the skin first, but I don't know, someone else would tell me, is this an ADHD thing or just a me thing? I jump everywhere. It's like, I'm tired of shading, I'll go to lines now. That darker color is going to be what I want, actually. Darker color is going to be there. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better, actually. There are some instances where that brighter line work might work. Again, the same like I said for the shadows for the dress. If you have the light hitting them a certain way, then perhaps it would make sense. But for this picture, I don't think so. I'm just going to go with the darker color. I like the way that looks. I like the way this is shaping up overall. Now I'm just going to start doing the same thing with my hair. I want to do a lighter color at the top because I feel like that's where the light lands on most people. It's going to be on the top of their head. And I've never had this look funky or wrong on a character, no matter how many times I've done it. And I'm just going to put some little highlights on the inside with that mixing brush. I didn't even go back to the regular gouache brush at all. I just grabbed the mixing brush and took a lighter color. Put a little bit in the braid here. Get another lighter color just to get another highlight closer to the top of the head. And again, the reason I'm doing a little bit of a lighter color here instead of choosing a darker color like I did for the dress is because I feel like the light really would be hitting the edge, and especially the top. I usually always put the lightest color on the top, but I'm just going to get a few highlights around these curls. Just a little bit of lighter touches on the very edges. I really do like this effect on hair, and like I said, it works well in most instances. And if you don't, you know what? That's why I use clipping masks. I could delete everything and go straight back to my base color. I could erase and it won't affect my base color. So add a little bit here. And coloring hair is really one of my favorite parts of coloring in pictures, because I feel like it just always a very relaxing process. There's something cathartic about this. I don't know how to explain. Maybe it's because by the time I get to the hair, which I usually save for last, I can see everything coming together. And I'm just gonna kind of blend these colors a little bit with the mixing brush. I really do like the range of values and colors and shades you can get just by using the mixing brush. Maybe just gliding a few splotches of other random colors here and there. It's so fun watching it come together. Now let's do some shadows. Now we can start to get some shadows in there. Well, that does look like it's coming together beautifully. I really like it. There's such a difference from between the plain flatness of it of when I began and how far we got with the paintbrushes. I don't know if I'm going to add a little bit of a background on here just yet as of this point in the editing, but if you've stuck with it this far, can you do me a favor? Go ahead and just hit the thumbs up if you like this. I'm a new channel, so it really would help me a lot to be more findable by the algorithm, or at least that's how I hope it works. And if you like my other videos that I've done on resin crafts, I've got more of those to come. Right now I'm just waiting on a shipment of resin. And this is the background I ended up making for her. I'm sorry, this was kind of a rushed video, and it was kind of flying a little bit by the seat of its pants. The next coloring video I make is going to be a lot more organized, but since I was making a short for the eyes, I decided to go ahead and at least show the rest of the process of the making of this illustration. This is actually one of my original characters for Vampire the Masquerade. Hence the rose petals we have going on here. She's Clan Toreador. And if you're thinking she looks way too friendly to be in the world of darkness, well, she's a fledgling. Give her time. Actually, I have no idea what the end game for her story is going to be. I just know that right now her humanity is still intact. This kind of was supposed to be a character portrait for a character sheet. And I kind of regret not giving her some more vampiric tails like fangs, but I don't know. This is Ezra's candid shot of pretending to uphold the masquerade, smiling with her mouth closed. Yep, that's the story I'm sticking with. And if you know World of Darkness, you know, and if you don't, well, it's not a big deal. I think this was a very good decision to go with a background. It looked way, way, way too plain the way it was. And I do feel like the dark circle around her does make the other colors pop a little bit more. Painting tiny things are a lot more aggravating than painting the bigger things. The size of your brushes don't always accommodate painting in tiny spaces, but that's what mixing brushes are for. I'm going to go over this several times. And if by chance you do want to see a more detailed explanation of how I do all this, let me know in the comments section. I will probably end up doing it anyway, but feedback is always helpful. I don't know how instructional this video was, but I hope it at least entertained you. And I will hopefully be seeing you in another one of these coloring videos again very soon.